Hey there folks, it's Blue here at Bluebears Games, and over the next 2 days I will be unboxing and then upgrading the Wilds of Eldraine Fae Dominion Commander precon. Before I get to today's video, I want to first take a moment to let you know that if you'd like to help support my channel, you can do so in the following ways. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, share any of my content on your socials so other people can discover it, and or watch some of my many other videos yourself. In addition to that, if you're interested in ways that you can help support my channel monetarily, please read the description of this video, and there you will find a myriad of options for what you can do to help me keep this channel going. Anything that you can do to help is greatly appreciated, and I thank you for it. Now with that out of the way, let's begin. Today's video will be the unboxing of the precon, where I'll show you everything that comes in the box, including the deck, card by card. And then tomorrow, I will release the upgrade guide, where I'll show you some options on what I believe you should take out and add back in to help make this deck play a little better. To start this off, let's look at the suggested commander that's on the back of the box, Tegwyll, Duke of Splendor, first. Tegwyll is 1 black, 1 blue, and 1 generic mana for a 2/3 legendary fairy noble with flying, death touch, and 2 other abilities. The third ability gives all other fairies you control +1/+1, and the fourth ability says that whenever another fairy you control dies, you draw a card and you lose a life. This is quite obviously a fairy kindred deck based on the name of the deck and Tegwyll's abilities. As someone who at one time played a fairy deck in Modern many years ago, I'm quite excited to see what they put together. I can only assume that all of the usual suspects will be included, but what I don't know is what new goodies I will find inside, and I also don't know what the sub-theme, if there is one, will be. The only way to know is to just rip this bad boy open and see what's in the box.
Here is the box for the Fae Dominion Wilds of Eldraine Commander. What I didn't point out to you last time was they actually have a description of what the deck's supposed to do. I forgot to mention that in the last one. So that's what the commander is on the back, but I'll show you that when I open it up. So let's do that and get started. Oh, my ripcord failed. Oh well. Alrighty. So again, it's the new, smaller version of the box. So this deck comes out the little pouch here. Last time it fell right out. This time I'm gonna have to push it out. It comes with the insert. Here are the little counters for you. Again, they're no longer on the sides. And then we have a pouch that has all the other stuff in it. So here's the box that they gave us. Let me assemble that and hope that I can actually do it this time, because last time it was not so easy. Oh, and it went together nicely. I said it in the last unboxing video, I'm really happy with the new direction that they went for the box. So the ones that are up and down or vertical are the same things where they had the little slot here. They just turned them sideways. So normally they're like this for the good ones, and the bad ones had the little glue thing where the flaps didn't really work. These are really nice. So it's the black blue, and then it's got a picture of the front of the box, or whatever the commander's name is, on there. Then we've got the life wheel that goes to 40 on one side and 20 on the other. The insert, I know nobody really cares about the insert, but I'm going to show you anyway. So it says a little bit about the commander, which is Tegwyll, Duke of Splendor, and then extra rules for commander on the other side. It's a nice little flyer. Anybody who likes to just collect things, you know, weird extra things, this is a nice thing for them. And I can't get the thing back, so I'll do that later. And then the two most important things are the sample booster pack and then the deck itself. So let's open this up first. I'll zoom because you won't be able to see it otherwise. Hope to get something good. Alright, here we go. First card is Court of Garenbrig in foil. That's monetarily got some value. I've opened a couple of these in Wilds of Eldraine packs, but I've not actually opened a foil one, so that's pretty nice. And then a foil Hatching Plans in the Enchanting Tales treatment. Not that great. Could have been better, but a foil Court of Garenbrig, that's actually pretty good. I'll have the prices up there as always. So that's the Collector's Booster sample pack. Now let's open up the deck and then we'll go over everything inside. Where is the little ripcord thingy? What they do, eliminate that? Because the last one didn't have it either. There we go, I'll just rip it from the top. There we go. Split the deck so it's easier to show you everything. Alright, so I already went over Tegwyll, but this is the thick version, because again, they changed the orientation of the deck. It's no longer in the back. The actual new cards to the set are in the front, specifically the rares. So that's the thick version. Here's the regular version that is tournament legal. And then the secondary commander is Alayla Cunning Conqueror, which actually, if I remember correctly, is pretty good. 1 black, 1 blue, and 2 for a 2/4 flying fairy warlock. That says whenever you cast your first spell during each opponent's turn, you create a 1/1 black fairy creature token with flying. So that's actually not bad for somebody like me who does play fairies quite often, creating flying tokens, because one of my favorite cards does that. And the second ability says whenever one or more fairies you control deal combat damage to a player, you goad target creature that player controls. So it's a little bit of control factor in there. You can actually set the pace of the combat, so that's not bad. That's actually a pretty good commander, or at least the secondary. Moving on, Archmage of Echoes, 5 to cast for a 4/4 fairy wizard with flying and ward 2. And then whenever you cast a fairy or wizard permanent spell, copy it. That's pretty good, actually. So anytime you cast a fairy or wizard, you copy that spell, so you get 2 for the price of 1. Let's say Malleable Imposter, 4 to cast for a 0/0 with flash and flying. It's a shapeshifter fairy. And it says you may have it enter as a copy of a creature an opponent controls, except it's a fairy shapeshifter in addition to its other types. This deck looks like it's pretty good so far. I'm impressed with this one. I'm also biased because I'm a fairy player, so. Misleading Signpost, 30 cast artifact with flash. It says when it enters during the declare attack step, because it's got flash, you may reselect which player or permanent target attacking creature is attacking, and it's a mana rock that has to add a blue mana. So it's, in essence, a 3 to cast mana rock with flash that can reorganize combat. So again, more combat tricks, which actually is what it says on there, on the front of the box. All right, Shadow Puppeteers. This one's a little expensive. It's 7 to cast for a 4/4 fairy wizard with flying and ward 2 again. And it says whenever it enters, create 2 1/1 black rogue fairy creature tokens with flying. Okay. And then it also says whenever a creature you control with flying attacks, you may have it become a red dragon with base power and toughness of 4/4 in addition to its other types until end of turn. Blightwing Bandit is a 4 to cast 2/2 fairy rogue with flying and death touch. And an ability that says whenever you cast your first spell during each opponent's turn, look at the top card of that player's library, then exile it face down. You may play that card for as long as it remains exiled, and you may spend mana of any type. Okay, so if you want to cast something that's red, you can actually use blue mana to cast it. It's kind of weird, but it works. Fairy Blade Crafter, 3 to cast 2/2 is flying. It's also a fairy rogue like the previous card. And whenever one or more fairies you control deal combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter on Fairy Blade Crafter. And additionally, it has whenever it dies, each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is its power. I kind of like this deck a lot. It's going to be a fun upgrade guide. All right, Nettling Nuisance. Nettling usually means it's going to goad of some sort. So it's a 3 cast 3/1 fairy rogue with flying. Whenever one or more fairies you control deal combat damage to a player, that player creates a 4/2 red pirate creature token with this creature can't block. And the token is, again, I just said it earlier, is goaded for the rest of the game. Goaded means that it cannot attack you. It can only attack your opponents. Goad does not work if you only have 2 players in the game, though. Keep that in mind for that kind of stuff. Tegwyll's, what's that say? Scouring. 6 to cast sorcery. It says you may cast the Scouring as though it had flash by tapping 3 untapped creatures you control with flying in addition to its other costs. And then you can destroy all creatures with it, so it's a board wipe. And then you create 3 1/1 black fairy rogue creature tokens with flying. It's 6 to cast, so 6 to cast board wipes are frowned upon a little bit. People like 4 and 5. 6 is a little high, but it's a board wipe that can be done as though it had flash by tapping flying creatures, and then you gain flying creatures, so that's not horrible. Brazen Borrower, so I think we're on to the reprints now. This is a reprint from the original Eldraine, Throne of Eldraine. 30 cast 3/1 with flying and flash, and then it can only block creatures with flying, but it has an adventure that returns a non-land permanent that an opponent controls to their hand. If you don't know what going on an adventure means, let me know in the comment section. I will explain it. Dig Through Time for some... It's not card draw per se. It's putting cards in your hand, but it's the closest thing to it. Fairy Formation creates fairy tokens that have flying and allows you to draw cards. Glen Elendra Archmage is a counterspell on a stick for non-creature spells. Hullbreaker Horror, one of the cooler blue cards created recently. It's 7 to cast 7/8 that can't be countered, has flash itself, and then whenever you cast a spell, doesn't matter what kind of spell, it just says a spell, you get to choose to either return a spell that you don't control to its owner's hand. It's not countering things. It's essentially like a counterspell, but they at least get to cast it again later if they want to. But it doesn't count as countering, so it's kind of one of those weird effects that's really powerful, actually. And then return target non-land creature or non-land permanent to its owner's hand if you choose that option instead. Illusionist's Gambit, combat trick stuff. Midnight Clock, another 30 cast mana rock for blue, only this one allows you to draw cards after so many counters are put on it. Perplexing Test. It's like a poor man's Cyclonic Rift. I actually like this card, though, now that I think about it. This one's one that says you can choose tokens or non-tokens, and you're going to have a lot of tokens in this deck, so that's actually a pretty good inclusion. Reflections of Littjara. So one of the other cards that I told you previously, when you cast a spell, you can copy it. This does the same thing. Scion of Una. Naturally, it's the Lord for Faeries. Sower of Temptation. Wow, this is looking like my modern Faeries deck. Theoretical Duplication. I actually don't know this card. It's a 3 cast instant. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, this turn create a token that's a copy of it. That's pretty cool. Kindred Dominance. You can choose a creature type and draw creatures that aren't of the chosen type. So a board wipe. Nightmare Unmaking. Puppeteer Click. Rankle, Master of Pranks. Thrilling Encore. Glenelender Liege. So this is sort of a lord. It's a double lord. It doesn't give an ability. It just gives +1/+1 to creatures of colors. So this one gives it to blue creatures and black creatures. And here's the cool thing. If a creature is black and blue, it gets +2/+2. So if you have that question, that's your answer. Nimmerus Una's Trickster. I don't know this one either. This is a 5 to cast 1/6 flash with flash and flying. And whenever you cast your first spell during each opponent's turn, look at the top 2 cards of your library. Put one of them into your hand and the other into your graveyard. So it kind of surveils, sort of. Una, Queen of the Fae. I'm thinking about possibly doing a mill deck with her as the commander, but I'm not sure yet. I keep going between her and the god one. Choked Estuary, so budget dual land, Darkwater Catacombs, Exotic Orchard. Ooh, Secluded Glen. These used to be a hot card to get for me. It's a dual land that comes into play tapped unless you reveal a fairy from your hand. It's kind of cool. I think these were, at the time, known as tribal lands. I think they would be now known as kindred lands. I'm not sure, but that's actually a pretty good inclusion for this deck. You don't get to see this card a lot because it's tied to a creature type. Sunken Hollow. These freaking temples. Alright, Mocking Sprite. It reduces the cost of your instants and sorceries. Picklock, Prankster. To the cast, 1/3, Flying Vigilance, so that's good on its own. It also has the ability to go on an adventure where you mill 4 cards, and then you can put an instant or sorcery or fairy card from among the milled cards into your hand. So in this deck, that's pretty good. Spell Stutter, so counter magic. Obira or Obira, I don't know how to say it. I apologize. I think it's Obira. Dreaming Duelist. I'm thinking of also making a $40 budget commander deck based on this card. It's 2 to cast, 2/2 with flash and flying, and whenever another fairy enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent will lose a life. That's a pretty good ability, and I like this card a lot. Spellscorn Cavern. Arcane Denial. So counter magic there. Cloud of Faeries. Very old school. This was from, I think, Urza's Saga, or was it Masks? I don't remember, but from back in like early 2000s, late 90s to early 2000s. Consider, Distant Melody, Factor Fiction, or FOF as we used to call it. Second half of the deck, Fairy Seer, naturally. I'm wondering if the other one's going to be in here that does something similar. Frantic Search, Hypnotic Sprite. That's a really good one, actually. It's a 2 to cast 2/1 flyer, but the adventure part is a counterspell for a spell that's mana value of 3 or less. It's actually not bad. Keep Watch for some card draw. Night Veil Sprite for Surveil ability. Opt. Quickling. Reality Shift, so removal, the way blue does it. Which is weird because this has also got black, so I don't know why you wouldn't just go with the better options in the black. Reconnaissance Mission. Repulse. Snap. Runaway Together. Reckless Spite, another older card. Halo Forager. An Arcane Signet. I assume that's a Soul Ring. Nope, I thought it was going to be next. Dimir Signet. Felwar Stone. Mind Stone, so some decent mana rocks. There's the Soul Ring. Talisman of Dominance. Okay, they did pretty good with that. Wayfarer's Bauble. They did a really good job with this deck. This is much better than the Virtue and Valor one. Bazooka Bog to blow up somebody's graveyard. Command Tower. Dimir Aqueduct to bounce land. Fairy Conclave, because why not? It's a fairy deck. Myriad Landscape. Makes sense. Path of Ancestry also makes sense. Tainted Isle. Nice to see a Tainted Isle in here. Temple of the False God. Probably not necessary. Might be coming out, depending on how many lands there are. I believe the rest of it's going to be basics, and then, yep, so far it's just the basics. And then the tokens, which will be probably mostly fairies. So fairy rogues, more fairy rogues. Copy tokens, because there were a couple things that copy things, so that makes sense. Regular fairy tokens. And then, because the one card makes pirates for your opponent, pirate tokens.
And that, my friends, is what is in the Fae Dominion Wilds of Eldraine Commander precon. Yep, that's a fairy kindred deck, alright. The box did include a lot of cards that you would expect for this type of deck, but not everything. I noticed a few cards that you'd really want in a fairy deck were missing, but overall, this is a really good precon if you're looking for something with this style of play. So good, in fact, that I said, wow, that's actually a pretty good deck right after I stopped recording. I think I may have only said that one time before, if that tells you anything. With that said though, it's not perfect. There are a few cards that weren't included that I believe could make this precon even better. Which cards, you ask? You'll just have to come back tomorrow when I release the upgrade guide video to find out. Well folks, that's all for this video, but please go browse my channel and take a look at some of my many other videos. I know for a fact that you'll find some that you like, and be sure to check back tomorrow for the upgrade guide. Before you go, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet. Have a great day, and I hope to see you tomorrow.